Here are 20 interview questions and answers related to API testing. What is API testing? API testing is a type of software testing that focuses on testing the application programming interfaces directly, ensuring that they meet functionality, reliability, performance, and security requirements. What are the different types of APIs? APIs can be categorized into different types such as RESTful APIs, SOAP APIs, GraphQL APIs, and WebSocket APIs. What tools can be used for API testing? Tools like Postman, SoapUI, Swagger, JMeter, and Karate are commonly used for API testing. Explain the different types. If, Explain the difference between SOAP and RESTful APIs. SOAP, Simple Object Access Protocol, is a protocol for exchanging structured information in the implementation of WebSocket services, whereas REST, Representational State Transfer, is an architectural style that uses standard HTTP methods for communication. What is a post request in API testing? A post request is used to submit data to be processed to the server. It is often used when creating a new resource on the server. What is a GET request in API testing? A GET request is used to retrieve data from the server. It is often used when reading or fetching resources from the server. Explain the importance of HTTP status codes in API testing. HTTP status codes indicate the success or failure of an HTTP request. They are crucial in API testing to determine whether the request was processed successfully or encountered an error. What is parameterization in API testing? Parameterization is the process of replacing hard coded values in API requests with variables. It allows for testing the API with different inputs and scenarios. How do you handle authentication in API testing? Authentication in API testing can be handled using techniques such as basic authentication, OAuth API keys or tokens. What is JSON and why is it commonly used in API testing? JSON JavaScript object notation is a lightweight data interchange format. It is commonly used in API testing because it is easy to read and write and it is supported by many programming languages. What is validation in API testing? Validation in API testing involves verifying whether the response returned by the API matches the expected result. It ensures that the API functions correctly and meets the specified requirements. Explain the concept of endpoint in API testing. An endpoint is a specific URL or URI that represents a resource on the server. It is used to interact with the API by sending requests and receiving responses. What is mocking in API testing? Mocking in API testing involves simulating the behavior of external dependencies or components that the API interacts with. It allows for testing the API in isolation without relying on the actual dependencies. How do you perform load testing on APIs? Load testing on APIs can be performed using tools like JMeter or Gatling to simulate a large number of concurrent users or requests and measure the performance and scalability of the API. What are some common security vulnerabilities in APIs? Common security vulnerabilities in APIs include injection attacks such as SQL injection or XSS, authentication flaws, insecure direct object references, and inadequate encryption. What is CORS and how does it impact API testing? CORS, cross origin resource sharing, is a security feature implemented by web browsers to prevent unauthorized access to resources from different origins. It can impact API testing if the API server restricts cross origin requests, requiring additional configuration or handling. How do you handle error responses in API testing? Error responses in API testing should be handled by verifying the HTTP status code and examining the response body for error message or details. Test cases should cover scenarios where different types of errors may occur. What is regression testing in API testing? Regression testing in API testing involves retesting the API after changes or updates to ensure the existing functionality has not been affected. It helps maintain the stability and reliability of the API. What is the role of documentation in API testing? Documentation in API testing provides information about the endpoints, request parameters, response formats, authentication requirements, and usage examples. It helps testers understand how to interact with the API and design effective test cases. How do you ensure the reliability of APIs in production? Reliability of APIs in production can be ensured through thorough testing, monitoring, and performance optimization. Continuous integration and deployment practices can also help to detect and resolve issues quickly. Additionally, implementing error handling, caching, and rate limiting mechanisms can improve the overall reliability of the API.